Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PODIO Commentary. My name is Matt Jarbo. I'm your host for this discussion into movies. Today, we're going to be talking about a film. I don't know if I'd call it a cinematic masterpiece, but I would definitely call it a movie worth your time, especially if you enjoy raunchy humor involving animals, which some people out there are going to be like, oh, yeah, I really want that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about like Brazzers. Although there's a little bit of shade of that in this particular film. But no, Strays. This is a movie that came out in the summer of 2023. It had been advertised alongside Violent Night, which came out in the winter of 2022. Excellent movie. And then, of course, advertised alongside Cocaine Bear, which came out in February 2023. Not a good movie. I will do a video on that. I think I've already done one on that one. I'll do it again with a more like refreshed view of it, but I didn't think Cocaine Bear was that good. And as a result of the Cocaine Bear advertising, Cocaine Bear let me down is really what I want to say. Cocaine Bear as a movie, as a comedy, let me down. And it was produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, guys who I love, 22 Jump Street, 21 Jump Street, Lego Movie, Clyde with Chance Meatballs. Like, they're great. But I was really let down by Cocaine Bear. And so then when they're like, hey, we're also producing this movie called Strays, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like the trailer might be giving away too much. I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near as good as what it's telling me. So I kind of avoided watching it in theaters and I kind of forgot about it, all things considered. That is until about 2 months ago. My mom came to visit. And my mom and I were talking about movies. And she's like, you know what I watched on Amazon? And I'm like, no. She's like, I watched Strays. And I'm like, the Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx dog movie? She's like, yeah, it was really funny. Now, my mom is not like the person who enjoys the most raunchiest of things. Like she took me to go see the movie Private Parts when I was 15, did not know what it was, ultimately regretted it while I had a blast. So I was really kind of taken aback by this. But she also really, really liked it. And so, okay, I kind of logged that one away in the back of my mind. I put it in the back chamber. I'm like, all right, it's there for in case it ever comes up. So then the new Roadhouse drops at the end of March of this year. And I decided to give the new Roadhouse a watch on Amazon. And after it was over, I'm thinking to myself, you know what I should do? I should probably watch like the first Roadhouse movie. Because I've never seen the first Roadhouse movie. So maybe I'll watch the original and compare it to the new one. But then I thought to myself, wait a minute, hold on here. I don't want to go in right away with this movie on my mind, with this movie having been the one that I've seen, because I don't want it to kind of taint how I view the original. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time. But lo and behold, you know what Amazon recommended? Strays. And it was short. It's a short movie. I was like, all right, cool. It's short. If it's dumb, I'll turn it off, whatever. So I give it a watch. But in the process of researching the show, I had to look up who was behind it, right? Of course, you got to look up who's behind everything. This movie was directed by Josh Greenbaum, who his biggest hit was that Barb and whatever go to Vista Del Mar, Barb and Star, whatever, that movie, Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. That's what it is. That was his first big hit. That was the first one that he did. And the screenplay for this was written by Dan Perrault. Now, Dan Perrault is a name I've never heard of really before that I could remember. But when I looked into who he was, it got me excited for seeing this movie. Because he was the co-creator of American Vandal on Netflix. American Vandal, if you've not seen the 2 seasons, I almost want to tell you to stop this, go watch that, come back. They're brilliant satires of the Netflix true crime documentary format. They're wonderfully zany, deceptively brilliant, and really well done. So that got me excited for this. That got me excited to dive into Strays because I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome. What also made me laugh my butt off was if you go to Dan Perrault's Wikipedia page, you will actually see that it's written by ChatGPT. If you know ChatGPT isms, you know that it was AI was used to create his IMDb page. Now, was AI used to make this movie? No, I don't believe it was. I believe good old-fashioned improv work. from the voice talent is a really big factor as to why this movie works, but that is something that I noticed behind it. This movie also, surprisingly, feels like it would have like a $20 million budget or less. It feels like that cheap. It actually has a $46 million budget, and it did not live up to that. When it came out in August of 2023, even though it had like the massive star-studded voice cast, Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx, Randall Park, Isla Fisher, never mind, Kim Kardashian plays a couch in the movie. You know, never mind all of the voice talent that it had. Josh Gad is in it as like the weirdest dog in the world. It still failed to recoup its money. I just wonder if it came out at the wrong time, because it only grossed $36 million worldwide against that $46 million budget. And it did open alongside Blue Beetle, which did not, I think it opened, I don't remember if Blue Beetle opened number one or not. It was not a bad movie, but it definitely was not a theatrical film. Warner Brothers dropped the ball on that one, I think. But when it came out, it opened at fourth place, making only $8.3 million total in the opening weekend, which to many, many people was like, it's Strays, put it out the pasture, put Strays down. I mean, all those, whatever. And maybe, again, people who look at box office as being some kind of spectator sport, look at something like that and immediately deem that the movie is terrible. I'm telling you right now, it's funnier than hell. It's so funny, I want to watch it again. Like, that's how funny it is. And it's good, raunchy adult humor. Like, it feels like if Seth Rogen's name would have been on this, more people would have maybe gone to it. I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller, having kind of cut their chops live action wise with 21 Jump Street in 2012, and 22 Jump Street in 2014, have kind of gone back to that like children's well, right? Because, they did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, they did the Lego movie, they produced Mitchell's versus the Machines, there's the Spider-Verse films. They're excellent storytellers. But I feel like they love raunchy, but they keep finding their big success in non-raunchy content. But then again, they have a really good reputation. They have a really good working relationship with Will Forte, because they were the people who I think either came up with or executive produced The Last Man on Earth, which was 4 seasons on Fox with Will Forte. And, I think, was it January Jones, the woman who voices Louise in Bob's Burgers, whose name escapes me right now, and I feel bad because I'm a big fan of hers. Louise Shaw, that's who it is, Louise Shaw. So, it's a funny show. And again, it's a really kind of adult take on things, right? On The End of the World, there's a lot of humor mixed with a lot of adult stuff. So this is kind of where they operate. This is the area where they're good at what they do. But this movie just, I think, failed to connect on that front. I mean, even the critics gave it like 53% on Rotten Tomatoes out of 172 critics. There's about a 5.4 on Metacritic. And then the audience score on CinemaScore was a B+. And again, I think it's because people didn't know what to expect from the movie, right? I really feel like they did not know what to expect from this film. It's a fine movie. It's a fun movie. I mean, look, it didn't set the box office on fire, but it had a unique spin on the Homeward Bound formula. If you've never seen Homeward Bound, there's like 2 versions of it you could see. There's the original like 1960s, 1970s Disney version, and then they remade it in the early 90s with like Michael J. Fox as the young dog, Sally Field as the cat, and I forget who played the older dog, but it's Homeward Bound. This movie is Homeward Bound with the intention of ripping off a dude's nutsack. But it's the same similar theme, same concept, same character progression, things along those lines. I mean, like I said, you've got Will Ferrell as Reggie, Jamie Foxx as Bug, Isla Fisher as Maggie, Randall Park as Hunter, Will Forte as Doug, who is Reggie's abusive owner, Harvey Guillen, Rob Riggle, Brett Gelman, Sofía Vergara. Oh, I think Sofía Vergara, if I can say that correctly, was the couch. I thought Kim Kardashian was. Maybe I'm wrong. It's got a lot of stars in the movie. So let's absolutely talk about the film, because it stars as Will Ferrell is narrating the story as Reggie, a little like naive border terrier who ends up getting adopted by Doug and Ashley. And Ashley ended up loving Reggie more than Doug. And so then when Ashley breaks up with Doug because he sucks, he has no job, he's a stoner, he's a chronic masturbator, his mother pays his bills, she wants someone with more ambition. She wants somebody with more, with more. And so as a result, he takes Reggie. So then she can't have him. And then, of course, he resents Reggie as being like, it's the idea of like, hey, if your relationship is failing, have a kid, see how that works out. The kid ends up becoming like the brunt of the anger of like the one parent. This happens all the time. I don't want to make fun of it. I'm not making light of it. It's just how it is. And so he keeps playing these games with Reggie. He keeps taking him out, throwing him. It's called fetch and fuck, right? Throws the ball. Reggie chases it. Reggie then gets home. Doug then says, fuck. That's a funny premise. But then Reggie, in his naivety, accidentally breaks the most precious thing that Doug owns. He breaks his bong. And that's a step too far. So there he drives him further away, a couple of hours away, and then just like ditches him. And here is Reggie lost, alone, walking through the big city streets, not too sure if he's going to survive. A couple of Dobermans come over, start talking lots of trash. And then out of nowhere comes this streetwise Boston Terrier Bug, played by Jamie Foxx, who does nothing but talk a ton of shit. And then they team up with the Australian Shepherd named Maggie, played by Isla Fisher, and then the therapy Great Dane, Hunter, played by Randall Park. And of course, Maggie and Hunter, they've got this like will they, won't they relationship. Like clearly Hunter is in love with Maggie. And Maggie, I think, kind of gets it, right? And there's this whole scene later on with the two of them that just has me in stitches. But they decide to go get revenge on Doug. They decide to track him down and tear off his nutsack. And they all do it. They all decide to go. So this is where like the journey begins. And they go through like a whole bunch of scenes of getting caught by animal control. There's the scene where like the eagle ends up grabbing Bug and they got to help him out. There's like all of these like little vignettes as they're making their way. The thing that cracks me up the most though is there's this scene where they're hungry and they come across these mushrooms and they're like, oh, hey, let's eat these mushrooms. These mushrooms are great. And they end up being like, hallucinogenic mushrooms. And at that point, like Maggie starts to kind of sniff out what she thinks are stuffed animals and that they're bunnies, they're stuffed bunnies. And so all four dogs just shred the stuffed animals, right? They're just playing their high. Look at all these toys. Oh my God, we're having all this fun. And then I'm watching that. I'm like, no. Because you know what it is. Like, you absolutely know what it is, right? But they don't know. And then of course, when they wake up in the morning and they're sober, there's just like the fluff everywhere. They slaughtered an entire burrow of rabbits and then they go to bury it. And then they're like, holy crap. Like, okay. Like all of a sudden a police dog named Rolf shows up and he's actually an old army buddy of Hunter's, played by Rob Riggle. And they're trying to find a missing girl. And this is where, again, you can kind of see where it's going. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I totally forgot about the animal shelter scene. So one of the things they talk about with Hunter is that Hunter has a big dick. Okay. That Hunter the Great Dane has a gigantic sausage. And at one point, they need to get out of the cage. They need to get out of this animal control cage. And the keys are on the wall. And they think, wait a minute, hold on. Hunter's huge dick, it can reach it. And Hunter's like, okay, I'll try. So he tries to give himself a boner. And then they're like, wait, no, Maggie, you got to talk to him. Like, you got to talk to him. And so then Maggie starts like, not talking dirty necessarily, but like that flirting. You guys know the flirting I'm talking about, right? Where it's meant to be dirty, but it's not dirty. Either way, it's like you just start seeing like it out of focus, but you start seeing it get bigger. And he's like, I'm gonna make it. It's too. I'm not gonna make it. But it's just the fact that like Like, this is the kind of raw, this is where my humor goes, right? Like, I once wrote a superhero story where one of the heroes in the city was a guy named Erecto, and his superpower was that his dick elongates like Mr. Fantastic. You know, the only part of his body that elongates is his penis. Like, that's it. You know, and like, that's the joke. So it's like very much in my line of humor. I thought it was just hysterical. Anyway, to cut back over to that. So they find Rolf and the other police dogs, and they're trying to find the girl, and they end up, you know, kind of breaking away from everybody, and you know, Doug and Reggie and everyone gets into a fight, and Reggie heads home. Oh, no, I was wrong. The animal control scene happened after the forest scene. I got my scenes mixed up. But after that scene, you know, they're still trying to figure out how to get over to Doug's. But Bug has kind of like had enough. He's kind of done. And they end up getting into a fight. Reggie and Bug get into a fight. And, you know, Bug ends up ripping off Reggie's scarf. And then he pees on it because that's now his. And Reggie gets furious and he takes off towards Doug's, and the three of them start heading back. And it's during this time that they come across the actual missing girl that the police dogs were trying to find. And so really it's Bug who finds her. And Bug doesn't like humans because he had a human. And that human, you know, he accidentally bit the human one time. And they got rid of him because of that. They were going to put him down because of that, and he got out. So he has this real apprehension towards humans because he trusted one, he loved one. An accident caused them to be fearful of him, and then that ultimately put him down the path that he's on. And that is something that, like, I think is real. And I don't just mean that in regards to like the dogs, because, you know, we've all known people who have had dogs that have bitten or whatever, and that ends up being a problem, right? If you can't train the dog to not bite, then like you're going to either have to give the dog away or put the dog down. I mean, that's just unfortunately reality in some cases, not all. In a perfect, just world, that would never, ever, 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 ever happen. But in this case, so it's also like humanity, right? Humans, we have emotions, we make mistakes, we get in fight, we say things out of anger. We have our own prejudices and our own thoughts and feelings based upon our personal life stories. And those can impact the way that we view the world. Those can impact the way that we view our interactions with other people. We know this. This is like not uncommon. And so I like the way that they kind of portrayed a little bit of that in regards to like the dog story. And what that tells me, and this is maybe I'm just being sappy. But anyway, so Reggie ends up returning to Doug's home and reminisces about all the times Doug mistreated him. And that finally got him to see Doug for who he was, because Reggie would have gone back to Doug and been abused, right? He went back. It was an abusive relationship, and he felt that the only way he had value was being that abusive target for Doug. And so finally Reggie gets pissed. And, you know, Reggie then fights Doug, and Doug gets ready to kill Reggie. And this is when the other dogs intervene and they knock Reggie down, or they knock Doug down. And then they literally hold Reggie down, or hold Doug down, as Reggie actually bites his penis off. And then Hunter shits in Doug's mouth. And then the house burns down. And then the house burns down. And the pickup truck gets destroyed. It's just a whole comedy of errors at this point in time. Everything is being destroyed. Then, of course, they all go home, right? And they go homeward bound. Now they're homeward bound, having completed their mission. Reggie ends up becoming a stray, teaching other strays the rules of the road. Bug ends up getting adopted by the little girl with whom he rescued, which makes all the sense in the world. And also, Reggie gets to hang out there with them all the time. So he's kind of got a home, but he's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of thing, which works for him. Hunter becomes a police dog. And Maggie ends up, they finally have sex. They start a relationship. Hunter finally becomes the therapy dog. And Maggie ends up finding her value as being a police dog, because that was kind of the whole point. Is like, she's an Australian Shepherd. She has an owner. That owner got a younger, cuter little puppy and then doesn't care about Maggie anymore. So Maggie then, having been able to sniff out the little girl, ends up being trained to be a police dog. And then her and Hunter engage finally in the relationship that they want. They have sex doggy style, which, by the way, is also, I believe, a foreign title for the movie is Doggy Style. Really is. I think it's like the German title of the movie is Doggy Style, which just makes all the sense in the world. Perfect. That's a perfect name. And then the movie ends on a happy note. Oh, no, except for Doug. Who in a post-credit scene ends up in the hospital. He's alive, but they found out that they're not going to be able to reattach his penis. So he is very upset. He won't be able to do his favorite thing in the world, which is masturbate. He's done with that. So ha ha ha, jokes on him. In fact, Will Forte at first did not want to take the role as Doug because he's a huge animal lover and he doesn't want to be seen as someone who abuses animals. Which, interestingly enough, is kind of one of the same reasons why Stanley Tucci was really apprehensive about taking on the role of the bad guy in The Lovely Bones, because that guy was a pedo and a child killer and everything else, and he didn't want to be seen like that. Sometimes these actors take on these roles that are just completely counterintuitive, juxtapose who they are as a person. But in this case, Will Forte's reasoning for it was, yeah, F those guys. I don't want them to be seen as getting any kind of good karma. Let's show them at their worst and what can happen to people who mistreat animals, which I thought was pretty great. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the film for what it was. It was very funny, very silly, very stupid. You don't watch this to learn anything. You don't watch this to grow as a person, even though there's a little bit of those moments that kind of are in the underlying aspect of the storytelling. But you watch it, you turn your brain off. You just laugh at all the swearing, all the sex jokes, all the raunchy, gross out humor. You remember what comedies were like between 1999 and 2013, and you go, oh, I miss the good old days. But then you also realize that movies like this probably aren't going to blow up theaters anymore because we're just kind of beyond that point, which is kind of the saddest thing if you think about it, that we are really beyond the point now of watching some of these films in the theaters with an audience. I would have loved to have actually seen this. And I'll tell you though, it was the Cocaine Bear marketing that got me. Because when I saw Violent Night on its opening night and they played the trailer for Cocaine Bear, my whole audience in that theater erupted in laughter. It really did help set the stage for enjoying Violent Night even more, was by having a good trailer that elicited laughter in, raunchy, gross out ways and setting the stage for what could have been probably one of the best comedies of all time if it was treated like a damn comedy. And I think Cocaine Bear misled a lot of people. And I think the marketing on Strays, I don't think it misled people, but I don't think it necessarily helped. This is one that I want more people to watch. So if you want to watch it yourself right now, it is available. Of course, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. You can watch it on Amazon Prime if you have a membership. I think after that, it's entirely probable that it will end up over on Peacock, being that it's universal. So it's available anywhere you want to get it to purchase for digital: Amazon Prime Video, Google Play, Apple iTunes, all that stuff. Here's some little fun tidbits about the movie. If you didn't know about that, you got real dogs are used like 95% of the time. Josh Gad, who voices Gus, previously voiced a dog in A Dog's Purpose and A Dog's Journey, both starring Dennis Quaid, who also appears as a bird watcher in Strays. That was kind of weird. This was Will Ferrell's first time voice acting in a live action film and his first R-rated voice acting role. And it's Will Ferrell. Who doesn't love Will Ferrell? So, little tidbits there for you. But as always, look, I want to hear your thoughts on the movie. Please let me know in the comment section here on YouTube. If you're listening to this on podcast, please leave a review on Amazon. Find me on Twitter at PODIO Commentary or here on YouTube at 3 Buck Theater. I, as always, love talking movies, love breaking them down, love diving into the themes. If you have a movie you want me to watch, you can recommend it, or you can sponsor an episode by going to patreon.com/Matt Jarbo. Great way to do that. And again, guys, thank you so much. PODIO Commentary is entirely a fan-funded affair. I love talking movies with you guys. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you again. Have yourself a great day, everybody, and peace out.